Please take your seats. Join me for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please. To citizen comments. Anybody wishing to speak? Citizen comments, please state your name and address for the record, please. Is there anybody wishing to speak? Anybody wishing to speak? Anybody wishing to speak? Citizen comments is closed. I have a few announcements this evening. We had two recent deaths in Kenosha County family recently. Former Kenosha County Sheriff Daniel Pinczakowski died May 14th of pancreatic cancer in Montrose, Colorado. After serving his country in the U.S. Army, including a tour in Vietnam, he began his career with the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department in the early 1970s. In 1982, he was elected to the Kenosha County Sheriff and proudly served for one term. Due to his injuries received in a duty-related accident, he was medically retired from the department in 1989. We thank former Sheriff Pinczakowski for his service to Kenosha County and to our nation. Our hearts go out to the Pinczakowski family. Former County Board Supervisor Jim Funk died at the age of 83 on June 7th. Jim had a long career with Nash American Motors Corporation, first in the Employment Office and later as a superintendent in the Final Assembly Department. He served on a Kenosha County board for 13 years, including 2 years of chairman of this board. Jim Funk was instrumental in his support for the development of Kenosha County Center building at 45 and 50. He was a strong proponent of supervisors wearing proper attire to meetings and using proper decorum on the board floor. He also was a quick wit. We thank Jim for his contributions to building a better Kenosha County, and we wish his family well. Please join me in a moment of silence for these two individuals. Thank you. Moving on to other business I have for this evening, I'd like to also welcome Costco, which opened its doors in Kenosha County on June 11th. And I'd also like to extend a welcome to Meyer Foods, which will be opening here in Kenosha County on June 25th. Last but not least, I'd like to congratulate the Central Girls Softball team, the Division 1A softball champs. A little round of applause for that. That's all I have for this evening. We'll move on to supervisor reports. Well, that's got to be a first. Oh, there we go. Supervisor Noble, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the Planning and Development and Extension Education Committee meeting last night, we had a preliminary condominium plat that we approved. It won't be on the agenda, and like I have done in the past, I report things like that we approve at the committee level. But this is a preliminary condominium plat at 27330 Silver Lake Road called Trails End Lake House, and is the owner, and David Smith was the agent. Basically, it's a piece of property on Silver Lake on County Highway F. And basically, what we allowed to have 3 plats actually, for where they can build up to 9 condominiums within these 3 plats. That's it.
Very good. Thank you for that report. Supervisor Noble, move on to Supervisor Esposito. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make the board aware of the email that I had sent out from the Judiciary-in-Law Secretary down at DeBreed, giving you the federal inmate average daily population, which is 187.67. We're down a little bit, but I guess there's an uptick in June. I will keep you abreast on the numbers quarterly. Thank you.
Thank you for sending that out. Supervisor Esposito, seeing no other lights, we'll clear the board and we'll move on to county executive appointments. County Clerk?
County Executive Appointment 5, Joseph M. Cardamone III to serve as Corporation Counsel.
I'm going to refer that to the Executive Committee, which will meet on July 7th at 7 p.m., second floor of this building, July 7th. Resolutions?
Resolution 1 from Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to approve the recommendations of the Classification and Compensation Study. Rose, no. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Brunig, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Dodge, yes. Gens, yes.
Vice Chair of Finance, Ron Frederick.
Mr. Chairman, I move the resolution be adopted.
The resolution's been moved by Vice Chair of Finance, Ron Frederick, seconded by Supervisor John O'Day. Supervisor Ron Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We all know that Act 10 put counties and governments in a dip position. And we all also know that we haven't had a study in Kenosha County, I suspect, since the 90s. I think we had one in the 90s that I can remember. The Kenosha County's objective of developing a comprehensive system would be market competitive. Developing a market competitive system places the county on equal footing with other employers relative to recruiting, retaining employees. A significant reason proposal was selected by Siegel Waters was other proposals because they demonstrated a superior ability to perform the market evaluation. When the primary with the primary purpose study was While the primary purpose of the study was to evaluate pay, the value of other benefits, primary health and retirement, were included for purposes of performing marketplace comparisons. However, the scope of the study did not include a full evaluation of these benefits. 394 employees were included in the study, comprising of 150 job titles. Each employee completed a job description questionnaire, a JDQ. Each supervisor reviewed the JDQ to assure accuracy and comprehensiveness. Each supervisor signed off on the JDQ. And the county put thousands of hours were spent on the study. The county budgeted $1,367,000 in 2015 for total cost increases for all employees, including employees not part of the study. If the board approves the plan and implements it on July 1st, and I understand if we do this tonight, it can be implemented on July 1st, as planned, total cost increases for all employees would be $1,131,000, which is $235,000 below budget. The study revealed that the county is about 10% below market when compared to the private sector, and about 6% below market when compared to the private sector public sector combination. If proposed plan is approved, the county will become market competitive for all markets. On the statistic end, of the 394 employees in the study, 120 were salaried and 274 are hourly. 30 employees are currently being paid less than the market per the study, and the wage will be moved up to the lowest rate pay in the new range. Of these 30 employees, 21 are hourly and 9 are salaried. The estimated cost is $55,000 for 6 months in 2015. 227 employees will receive an adjustment in their pay base of 1.5%. 137 employees have a current wage salary that extends to the highest point in new wage range. These employees will receive $500 one-time payment in 2015, but that will not increase their base. That concludes my remark. I will say that the finance director and the personnel director are here to answer any questions. I'll try to answer any questions that are. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Ron Frederick. Seeing one light, Supervisor Rose, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make the following motion with respect to the final paragraph of the resolution before you, so that it would read as follows. Now therefore be it resolved that the Kenosha County Board of Supervisors adopts the recommendations of Siegel Waters Consulting and integrates the same into the 2015 wages and benefits approved in the 2015 budget, except the judge's legal secretaries remain in classification 6 and not 5. If I receive a second, I would like to speak to this.
The amendment was moved by Supervisor Rose, seconded by Supervisor Rick Dodge. Now you can speak, Supervisor Rose.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and board members. This evening, I'm urging you to be fair. There has been no reason offered that, in my view, is persuasive to demote the judge's legal secretaries from the classification number 6 to classification number 5, and to demote their titles as set forth in classification number 5. Their duties are not diminished. Their position was created at a time when the district attorney's office had a paralegal position created. A grievance was filed, and the result of the grievance was that the judge's clerks were called legal secretaries, and that was with the approval and reapproval with many budgets and opportunities for the board to contest it. On another occasion, the judges themselves, in a discussion with the county executive after the state Supreme Court had urged all counties to authorize the creation of a position called law clerk to the judges, they decided that they would forego that if their legal secretaries were given a raise. And thus, they again remained in the position of legal secretary. This board approved that. So here we are in 2015, and I don't see any reason not to be fair and to demote them. Just because we have Act 10 and we don't have union representation doesn't mean that we can run roughshod and be unfair. If there were unions now that we were dealing with, this wouldn't even be before this board. And if it was proposed as such, I am sure the personnel director would be coming forth before this board and say, you can't do that. You've got to be fair. And the position would remain as a legal secretary. If you're not going to have a union representation of employees, you have to be fair. And if you're not fair, you're certainly laying the groundwork for another day when there will be representation. And those of you who are supporting this demotion will be the grandfathers and grandmothers of that change. That will come sometime in the future, just as collective bargaining was something that was authorized, and many times these things are from unexpected sources. How did we get collective bargaining in this state? Well, it was proposed and signed by Republican Governor Warren Knowles. So keep in mind, when you act unfairly, and I think this demotion is one, you lay the groundwork for consequences later on. And you also, I think, lay the consequence, the collateral consequence here of a morale change. What do the other employees think? What do the other employees think when they see employees being demoted for no good reason. When you talk about market competitiveness, just keep in mind where is the private sector market competitiveness or comparison to this kind of job? There is none. It's unique. It's different than a legal secretary in a law office. We've been told that they have examined the law clerk position or the judicial clerk position in both Walworth County and Racine County. But as the memo to this board back on May 19th pointed out, this is dissimilar. 3 people fill the position that one person fills here. Each of the branches in those 2 counties have 3 types of clerks. A deputy clerk, a calendar clerk, and a clerk 4. We certainly don't want to adopt 3 people for a position that is now held by 1 person. So again, let's be fair. Or is this just we're just doing this because we want to show that now we have the power and therefore we're going to exercise that power? If you have the power, you've got to be fair in the exercise of that power, because that, if you're not, you have collateral consequences to that. So I don't think that you ought to buy into the proposition here that we want to be like Racine or that we want to be like Walworth County. I say they have 3 for the job that we have 1. What have the judges said to this board, both in written form and as well as personal appearances, that they support retaining their legal secretaries in Category 6? Actually, they had proposed that they be placed in Category 7. They've thought that they ought to be in the same category as the paralegals. Judges weren't consulted about this. That's been told to this board time and time again. Now, it has been suggested here by the administration that, well, we will review this in the fall, and after a proper review, it probably or possibly will come back to this board that they be promoted to classification number 6 instead of 5. Now, I don't understand that argument at all. If they ought to be in classification number 6, let's do it this evening. Let's not wait till the fall and put them in classification number 6 then, but keep them where they are right now. Just let them know, so that we let them know, if you're for this proposition that they are to remain in number 5, that we have the authority. Or is that just an arbitrary exercise here of power to show them that we have that power? Again, let's be fair. If you're for keeping them in classification 5, I don't see why you would suddenly change your position in the fall and say, well, now I see your arguments, Supervisor Rose and judges, and we'll put them in classification number. In the fall, we'll make it right. If you want to make it right, let's make it right now. Now, one doesn't have to take the position that we're going to reject this study completely and criticize it as a waste of money. I'm not doing that. I'm asking for one amendment to that study, and that's the only proposition that has really come before the Finance Committee. There have been some other criticism from highways, but nobody's come forward with a proposition. Nobody has said, well, this is the way we want it, and this is the resolution we'd like you to vote on. This amendment that I offer this evening is the same amendment that I offered to the Finance Committee and was supported by 2 other Finance Committee members, Supervisor Dodge and Supervisor Kohlmeyer. That is the only proposition that we have ever voted on. So I don't think you ought to buy the argument that, well, if we do it for them, we're opening up the floodgates. The floodgates have not been opened. I say if you're for 5, if you think they ought to be in 5, don't think that this is somehow going to be corrected in the fall. You don't have to reject the whole proposition, the whole study here, to make one amendment. We're not rubber stamps. We're independent thinkers. The study, in large part, I support. and I will support it this evening if my amendment is rejected. But just because we support this amendment doesn't mean we're saying this study is a waste of money and to throw it away. But what we are saying is that we're independent thinkers and a mistake has been made. And we're here to correct that mistake now, not in the fall. No study is perfect. And we don't have to say that it is either perfect or imperfect. That is not the choice. But that seems to be the choice of the administration when they present this to you. You've got to accept it all. It's an all or nothing proposition. It's not an all or nothing proposition. You can make this one small amendment for a very small group of employees, the legal secretaries to the judges. Interestingly enough, and a point that has not been discussed, is there still, even if you put them in Category 5 and change their titles, but not their duties, there still will be a legal secretary in the office of the district attorney. What sense will that make when somehow her duties remain the same and she's in Category 6, but the secretaries for the judges used to be comparable to her? Nobody's explained that particular discrepancy. That's why there's that Category 6 job title, because there's a person that fits in that title. Again, it points out an imperfection. This is a study of many pages and took many hours to set forth. Every study isn't perfect. Every study doesn't have to be endorsed. It's not an all or nothing proposition. We can be fair this evening. We are the ones that set the policy. These are recommendations, and we don't have to see it 100% their way. So I urge you this evening to be fair and to endorse my proposition to keep legal secretaries for judges in Category 6.
Is that it, Supervisor Rose?
Yes.
Supervisor Ritzloff, you have the floor.
I was
On the amendment.
I'm not speaking on the amendment.
Okay, that's what we're talking about
I know.
right
I
now.
pressed before that.
Okay. So, we have an amendment on the floor. An amendment on the floor to move the legal secretaries from, you repeat that with that? Supervisor Rose, repeat that for the amendment that we're going to be talking about and voting on shortly here. There you go.
At the end of the final paragraph, it would read after the words 2015 budget, except the judges' legal secretaries remain in classification number 6 and not 5.
Okay, so is everybody clear now what we're voting on right now? The amendment to the original, that's what we're voting for. So if you're in favor of the amendment that Supervisor Rose put forward, you would vote yes. If you're against his amendment, you would vote no. I'll have a roll call. Yes.
Talk about the amendment.
Sorry, go ahead. I missed it.
You know, the first thing I hear from Supervisor Rose is they were demoted. Well, when I look at the comparisons on the sheet that I have here, it seems like they went from, the minimum went from 1850 to 1957, 1957
Could you
an
talk
hour.
closer to the mic, please?
Oh, 1957 an hour. Okay, that's an increase of $2,200. I don't know what kind of demotion that is. And now we're suggesting that one job out of, what is it, the total, 154 of, I think it is, this one has to be wrong, okay? I got letters from highway workers, and they were unhappy, and we all know why nobody came forward, because that's just the way it is. The judges were the advocate for these clerks, and quite frankly, I tried to keep this out of it, but I think there's a conflict of interest with the person making an amendment tonight, because he works in that environment. And I'm going to say that out loud because I've been thinking it, and everybody in this room knows it. But besides that, and I'm not questioning his integrity, I'm questioning his judgment. This should be voted down. Vote the proposal through. Now, there is a process for these people to appeal. If you're a supervisor and you can get your supervisor to agree, and I know highway workers maybe they can, you can come forward, and if there's something, because we know that they all wrote up their job duties. Now, maybe they left some out in the clerk's office. I don't know. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. The judges signed off. Don't vote to change this. Keep the plan in place, and if they want to change it in the future, they can, and there's a process for it, and I've been told that. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to talk to Supervisor Rose? Go ahead. On the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is no appeal process here. Reclassifications are considered in the fall. They're presented to the Finance Committee and then to the board for reclassification of a particular job. And that's what Supervisor Frederick is talking about. But there is no other appeal under our rules. And the reclassification doesn't come from the bottom and go up. It usually comes from the chairman of that, director of that department, or the supervisor of that department. It doesn't come from a legal secretary, as this example is, who presents it to the Finance Committee, and then we decide. So when Supervisor Frederick says the employee can appeal, that isn't the case. In this particular situation, if you wanted to reclassify this particular position from number 5 to number 6, it would come up in the circuit court budget. It would be presented to the county executive by the clerk of the circuit court for reclassification. If the clerk of the circuit court decided that she didn't want to include it within her budget as a reclassification, it would never see the light of day. It would not be in the circuit court budget. And then it would go to the personnel department for review. Then it would go to the county executive for review. It'd be presented to the Finance Committee for review, and then it would come to the board. That is the process that Supervisor Frederick calls an appeal. That is not an appeal. That's standard procedure, but that isn't the employee, the legal secretary, seeking an appeal. So if one is in a category 6 right now, and your category is called legal secretary, and you go down to a lesser title, to a category 5, that's what you call a demotion. Now, everybody's going to get a raise under the propositions that are before us this evening. That's not the point. And that isn't the point that they have made, and they've made that time and again. They don't want their position diminished or their work diminished, or somehow feel that they have done a lesser job. What does it mean in your workplace when your job is at a lesser classification, or your job title is demoted? You're at a lesser job title. Well, it's called a demotion. You're not going up. You're not going to vice president. You're going to an assistant vice president or assistant supervisor or a buck private. You might get a raise as a buck private, but if you used to be a corporal and now you're a private, that's called a demotion, even though the private may be getting more money because the Congress has authorized it. It's a demotion any way you cut it.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Move on to Vice Chair Bruning. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Rose brought up an interesting point, and I'd like to ask a question through the chair to Mr. Riedel. Could you please tell us who these people actually report to?
Who the judicial assistants report to?
Yes.
The clerk of court?
They don't report to the judges, is that correct?
The judges are co-supervisors, I guess, for lack of a better description.
But when it comes
They have a
to,
shared reporting responsibility.
okay. So when it comes to budget time, it actually goes into the clerk of court's budget, correct?
Yes.
And that's where they belong anyway, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Colmeyer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. Just wanted to state to everyone I'm supporting the amendment tonight. I've tried to keep an open mind on this issue, looked at it both ways, and while I don't really prefer singling out one classification of employees and bringing them up, as I would prefer, just given the letters, the vocal support that we've seen at the committee level, at the county board level, that maybe the consultant would have recommended a change here on their own. I think for me, just looking at all sides of the issue, seeing unanimous consent approval from our judges, I have a lot of respect for our judges. Having them be all at our finance committee meeting speaking on this issue, I think they carry some weight. And so for me, that tips the scale. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that I think for everything I've seen and read and heard, that this probably could be corrected tonight. And so that's why I'm voting in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Colmeyer. We'll move on to Supervisor Dodge. You have the floor.
Yes, through the chair, could I speak to Robert Riedel?
You may. Just give him a minute to get up to the podium, please.
Bob, in the Finance Committee meeting last time, you were called the resident expert on the judge's secretary's job. Let me ask your opinion. Do you think that you have a better understanding of their day-to-day duties than what the judges do?
No.
No. And the judges feel, that's all. Okay, thank you. The judges feel unanimous that the skill level of their secretaries equals that of the secretaries working for the district attorney, the legal secretaries. The past study that we had, which is more than 15 years ago, they've put the judges' secretaries in a higher pay range than the secretaries working for the district attorney. And that was changed, and they were made equal through the union grievance procedure. Now, it's my understanding that had the legal secretaries' jobs just been paid on a comparative rate with other public sectors, they wouldn't have got that raise. But they were able to, and it was a market-based, so they compared them with the private sector, which drove their wages up. Unfortunately, we can't compare the secretaries working for the judges with the private sector. So they left their wages the same. Now, it doesn't mean, and I believe that the judges' secretaries have the same level of skill. When you look at the job requirements of the two jobs, as a matter of fact, they're almost identical, with the exception that the judges' secretaries, in addition to the other job, also have to be notaries public. So to me, it seems to me that we should be fair to those employees and make them at a higher, equal pay range as the legal secretaries. No, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Dodge. Supervisor Anita Johnson, you have the floor.
First, I want to address something. I believe in my very first training seminar I went to was on Robert's Rules. And one of the things that stands out to me is that questioning another supervisor's motives is against Robert's Rules. I just wanted to state that. Next, I wanted to address the question about the judges versus the clerk of courts. The reason that they have to have dotted line to both is because the judges actually are in the state budget. We can't have them just report directly to the judges. That's why they're on the clerk of courts budget, because they have to come through the county. One more thing that I wanted to address. I'm just kind of at a loss as to why we're back here where nothing has been done, even though everything we've heard is that there are issues. I mean, there's more than one issue as well. But I don't understand the obstinance in just addressing the issue. It's almost like it's an arbitrary arrogance to just say no, even though people are coming forward. And, we do need to take the judges into consideration, their thoughts. Think about what you're telling them. You are telling them that the throughput of their work is not as valuable as the district attorney's office or corporation counsel and the people that work for them. That, in effect, is what we're telling them. The throughput of their work is not as valuable as that of the other offices. I have a problem with that. That's all.
Thank you. We'll move on to Supervisor Ron Frederick. You have
Yeah,
the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I think one other thing should be cleared up. Specifically, I asked the consultant the question, and that was my question, by the way, and how did they arrive at the wage for the legal secretaries and then the judges' assistants? I don't know who said something about 2 or 3. There was 14 counties that, she said there was 14 counties that they compared it with, and there was 18 that they compared between the private and the public sector for the legal secretaries. 14 other counties were compared to that. I think that has to be cleared up. It's unfortunate that we had the committee of the whole meeting and everyone wasn't here. They would have heard that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Ron Frederick. We'll move on to Supervisor Gantz. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having to have this before me 8 times just boils my blood. And to have these conversations, I guess I'm really disappointed. I mean, to call this study unfair or what's happening unfair or that we're singling somebody out is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we have hired a quality firm, from what I've been told, the #1 public-private at this in the whole state, okay, to do a market study. We budgeted the money, we paid them, they did the study. Okay, we've had representatives, I have had personally representatives from 4 different areas of our county either approach me at a finance meeting, call me on the phone, or send me a letter or an email that they were unhappy. Now we're just picking one of those and advocating for them. Look at the door you're opening. We have 2 more, I believe 2 more studies to go with other people in the county as far as our employees, and they're going to watch this dog and pony show, and they're going to come before us saying, hey, that's not fair either. I'm really disappointed by this. I'm not one to micromanage. I look at this as a study that we hired, the taxpayers paid for it, and we're taking the results, and now we're going to pick and choose who we want to favor in an outcome. That's ludicrous. I'm not saying that there might not be some discrepancies and this might not be perfect. Who can say? And I don't think Supervisor Frederick called this an appeal early on. I think he called it a process. And I don't know that it has to go through 18 million loops. I think if county board supervisors want to discuss it or want to bring it up in the budget or look it over, it can be done. It doesn't have to go through all kinds of channels. But I think to pick and choose and move one class forward, and I mean, I got some things from the highway department, from the clerk of courts, from other areas, the clerk's office that had some things to say, and I can't believe that we would do that as a group. I mean, we're opening up for, I mean, wait till we talk about the correction, the people in corrections. I mean, this is just, I'm really having trouble swallowing this. So I think the study was done in good faith. I mean, to call out administration, a person in administration, or the people who did the study is just plain ridiculous. The whole thing disappoints me, and I'll be voting against the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gantz. Do you want to speak again on this, Terry, or are you all through?
Mr. Gens and Mr. Frederick both make this statement again. We're opening up the door. There's no other resolution that has been presented to this board or to the committee to make any other changes. This is the only one. There have been some criticisms, but no resolutions. We act on resolutions. We're not rubber stamps. Just because you make an amendment to this doesn't mean that you have to reject the entire proposition. It's not an all or nothing thing. And when Supervisor Gens says I can bring it up, or any of us can bring it up in the budget, why do we want to have this debate again? Some of the supervisors that are speaking against this proposition this evening have also said that they would support it in the budget. Now, what sense does that make? Let's correct it tonight and be done with the issue. How many months do you want to debate it? If you think it's wrong, don't tell them that you'll change it in the fall and they're supposed to wait and sit on their hands and be good little employees, and then we'll take care of you. If it's wrong now. Let's just change it. It's not that big a deal. The ones who are making it the big deal are those who take the proposition that you've got to support this in its entirety, otherwise you're not true blue. I don't buy that one bit.
Is that it?
It is.
Thank you. Seeing no lights. It will be requested. That's very good. What we're going to be voting on right now is Supervisor Rose's amendment, which states in part, let me see if I read this correctly. At the end of the last, now therefore let it be resolved, after the 2015 budget at the end, it would say, except judges, legal secretaries to remain in classification NE6 instead of NE5. Is that correct from the maker?
Yes, it is.
All right, so if you are in favor of the amendment by Supervisor Rose, you will vote yes. If you're against the amendment proposed by Supervisor Rose, you will vote no. The motion fails. Okay. As presented, vote yes if you're in favor, no if you're against. We're going to clear, pardon me? Oh, okay, we'll speak on it if you want to speak. I just thought everyone was out of breath, but I guess not. We'll go a little further here. No. Okay. So we'll go to Supervisor Dodge.
Yes.
What are you proposing?
No, I'm going to, I'd like to go through the chair to Robert Riedel and a question on some language here, which I had talked to him about previously. And while I'm not a English major, I'm a little bit confused. Proposed policy language changes. If you go under the third page under 4, safe harbor policy. Mr. Riedel, didn't you want to change that language? I can read it. It didn't make sense to me. The second sentence I had a question with, and I'll read both of them. It says, exempt employees must receive their full salary for any week in which they perform any work without regard to the number of days or hours worked, which is fine. Second sentence, however, exempt employees need not be paid for any work week in which they perform at all for Kenosha County. Now, I'm not an English major, but I think in which they perform no work at all for Kenosha County. Is that what you meant to say?
Well, that's what the language indicates, yes. If you don't work for us in any given week, you don't get paid.
So we can leave that as an understanding. We don't have to amend it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all, Supervisor?
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We'll move on to Supervisor Poole.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe this is the time for this comp plan to be implemented. The U.S. gross domestic product is down in the first quarter of 2015. Retail sales are extremely weak, down 0.3% year over year. Wholesalers are seeing sales plunge at a rate not seen outside of a recession, down 4%. Factory orders are collapsing at a rate only seen in a recession, down 4% year over year. Wholesale inventories have not been as high except in a recession. And under 60% of our population is actually working. So therefore, I say our economy is weak and we could be in a recession. We do not need to raise expenses by $2.4 million if we are going into a recession. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Poole. Move on to Supervisor Boyd Frederick. You have the floor.
Yes, the Kenosha News actually ran something very interesting today about just the opposite of what Supervisor Poole just stated. It talks about that if we don't do something, then we're going to fall behind. It said a third of the employers right now are looking to give wage increases because the competition is so much out there. We in this area are in such growth when it comes to Kenall, Amazon, and all these other companies coming in. If we do not keep up, then we will lose some of our best employees. The employees that are the ones that are most highly sought are the most highly skilled, and that's what we have here in Kenosha County.
Is that it? Thank you, Supervisor Boyd Frederick. We'll move on to Supervisor Noble. You have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I came to one of the Finance Committee's meetings, and I expressed some concerns that really never were addressed by the Finance Committee, and I went to the Committee of the Whole, and I asked my questions, and just, you know, if you were there, you heard them, but just briefly, I'm not going to be supporting this. I questioned the fact that one of the whereases in this particular study says that we're going to do a survey of private sector and public sector companies. 18 public sector companies were surveyed. Not one single private sector regional employer was surveyed. And then when I asked the representative from Siegel Waters what, you know, they refer to some data sources in their study. I said, were those regional in nature? And she said yes. And I said, did the regional in nature include Chicago? And she said she didn't know. Would that make a difference? And I believe it would make a huge difference. If the information they used to do this study used Chicago data, it's skewed. That is not in our, you know, our regional survey. It shouldn't have been in it. So, number one, I'm not happy with the fact that they didn't do the surveys of the private sector. Number two, job security. I asked them, they didn't actually have it in their presentation, so after the presentation, I asked them, you know, I said, it looks like job security was overlooked. And, you know, right now, in the private sector, Twin Disc and CNH are going to be shut down for a month because they're slow. Job security usually, at least to the county executive's credit, he took us through that recession, and very few employees were laid off, and those that were very short term, relatively short term. But when I asked her if you know, if job security was represented in this report, and she said, no, it wasn't, because it can't be quantified. So I really have a problem with the fact that they didn't include job security, and to tell me that it can't be quantified, I think that our constituents, such as the employees that are laid off for a month at Twin Disc and CNH, that's very quantifiable for them, and I think that a consultant should have been able to quantify it too. So those are my main two reasons for voting against it. There's one third one, too. I don't like how in the plan, there's 174 hourly employees. If you happen to be at the top of your wage, you're basically redlined. You're going nowhere. There's no incentive for them to, go above and beyond the call of duty because their pay is basically redline. I don't like that either. So there's 3 reasons.
Is that all?
Yes.
Supervisor Ritzloff, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to vote no against this, and I think I've expressed my concerns in the meeting that we had with our consultant. I'm very concerned that I guess we could get into the semantics of this study, and it says it was a total compensation market study, and that's what we approved in a resolution in 2014. But leaving that aside, in my opinion, a compensation study includes more than just the wages. I brought this up at the Finance Committee last week. I was told that, well, the health insurance, I guess we'll look at that down the road. Okay.
August, actually.
Well, okay, here's the thing.
Specific time, I'll tell you when it is.
All right, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
I'm just answering your question.
It wasn't a question. It was not a question. It was not a question.
I answered it anyway. Go ahead.
Appreciate not being interrupted.
Me too.
What was happening was when we looked at the levy piece, the health insurance, we're looking at $900,000 increase. Okay, to not put this together now and make decisions, I think, is wrong. There's no guarantee that we're going to look at this in August, and we don't know what that's going to look like. We're talking about tremendous difference. So I don't know why we can't hold this, wait till the fall, put it all together, consider the health insurance with this wage schedule. It's such a difference and such an important item. So that's where I'm coming from, and I really am having a hard time understanding why this particular Siegel Waters couldn't have made recommendations that they sounded like they were going to. I've been told we can go with, wait till the Horton Group comes, another consultant. Well, I don't know. So that's why I'm voting against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry I interrupted.
It's all right.
Supervisor Sklitsky, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also will not be supporting this resolution. I echo a lot of Supervisor Retzloff's concerns. But I also wanted to take a look at it from a little bit different perspective. I agree that compensation is looking at not only just wages, but also benefits that are associated with it, because it's total compensation. That's how any organization looks at compensation. But for some reason, the study that was contracted was just flawed. It didn't look at that. It only looked at wages, and I still cannot come to grips with why. Regardless of when it's been stated that we're going to look at health care, health benefits, it is no guarantee. But one thing that I did look at, because I had a little interest level on this, and that was attrition rates. Now, most of us in this room work in the private sector, and quite frankly, attrition rates are a welcome factor of business. And the reason for that is because it brings in new perspectives, new ideas, new individuals, new energy. And over the last 5 years, the county has had an attrition rate about 10.5, give or take a few tenths of a percent. There's been no massive increase, despite some other supervisors' concerns over this. It has been very steady between 9.5 and 11.5%. In the private sector, there's a tremendously wide range of attrition rates, from small family-held companies that see virtually no attrition to large multinational corporations that can see double-digit attrition. And since I didn't have the time to sort through all the statistics that you can find at Labor Bureau, I called a very good friend of mine that is director of HR, and I asked them, you're familiar with attrition rates? You bet they are. They see the studies come in, and they take a look at them because it's important to them. At her particular company, their attrition rate was 15%. Others that she's recently seen a study as low as 7%. So it's quite a wide range, but the county is right in a normal spot. We had been waiting and asking for the results of this study for many, many months. And then it's introduced to us. Quickly, a resolution is drawn up. And basically, as supervisors, we're asked to vote on something that we really haven't had much time to
Point of
digest.
order.
I'm on my order, and I also have the
No,
floor.
he had every opportunity to be at every meeting on this whole
Okay.
thing, of which he showed up at none.
Let him finish up here.
Anyways, thank you for that comment, Supervisor Gable. What I want to do is make sure that we're looking at it from all angles, and attrition rate is one of them. We are not in a situation where we need to panic. We're not in a situation where this resolution needs to be rammed through, and I concur that we should be tying this resolution together with a total compensation resolution and not just piecemealing it. So I will not be supporting this resolution tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bruning, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple questions through the chair to Mr. Riedel, please. Mr. Riedel, I heard some other things during the Committee of the Whole, and I'd just like some clarification on it. Could you speak a little bit about the private sector? Because from what I had heard was that they did adjust the compensation from outside of the Kenosha area to bring it back to where we would be at. Could you address that, please?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that, just for clarity, I think it's important to point out. Number one, we are in the public sector, and everything we do is basically public information and subject to public disclosure. And so when you survey a public sector group of employers, we are more or less obligated to reply. And that is why the public sector had 16 or 18 comparable counties that they surveyed, including Lake, which is in Cook County and is within our employment market. I don't believe Cook was, in fact, I know Cook was not included in that. But the second thing about the private sector, and this is important, is that their information is proprietary. In fact, those of you who've worked in the private sector may have signed contracts, I know I have, where if you told anybody what you earned, you could get fired. Their information is held close, and it is proprietary. It is not subject to the same rules we are, and so an outfit like Siegel Waters approaches the private sector offering confidentiality on the information they provide, and that's how they gather their information. Siegel Waters has 7 databases of private sector information separated by region. That is one of the big reasons why we selected them, is because the board expressed keen interest in finding out how we compare to the private sector and the public sector, and their private sector information was better than anyone else's. So that's what I wanted to say about the private sector. There are adjustments that Siegel Waters put in to kind of compensate for the differences in region. And I don't know how they did that. I mean, that's why we hired those folks to do that. But I know Lake County was included, Cook was not.
Okay, thank you. One more other question in regards to the insurance. I know that for the last 9 years that I've been on the board, the insurance has been revisited every year during budget time.
Yes.
Is that going to happen again this year?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Thank you.
In fact, we started working on it last week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bruning. We'll move on to Supervisor Hallman. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be voting on this resolution, as is voting in favor. One thing, as I'm listening to supervisors' comments on this, strikes me as interesting. And if you were to divide up what we do as a county board, you could probably break it off into probably about 40 or 50 different pieces. Rarely, if ever, do we go into the policy weeds on any of them and the mechanics the way that we do employment issues. And it was this body that was handed by the administration a proposal to take this on, and we voted yes. That would have been the moment to say there are some other things that we would like to make sure are covered in this, and we didn't do that. So some of our dissatisfaction, a significant portion of it, really falls on the burden of our own shoulders. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Gable.
Call the vote.
The vote call the vote has been called. Is there a second? Second. Been seconded by Supervisor Rose. This requires a 2/3 vote in order to call the vote. So if you're in favor of calling the vote, vote yes. If you're against calling the vote, vote no.
On the resolution.
Now what we'll be voting on is the resolution number 1 as it is presented to you. Resolution number 1 as it is presented to you. Vote yes if you're in favor of that, or no if you're against.
Ordinance 4, first reading 2 required from Public Works Facilities Committee regarding speed limits for County E in the Village of Summers. Moving on to Ordinance 5 from Planning Development and Extension Education Committee regarding proposed comprehensive plan amendment. Gabrielle Mickle and Rachel A. Michael, owner, requesting an amendment to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035, map 54 of the comprehensive plan, from suburban density residential PEC and non-farm wetlands to general agricultural and open land PEC and non-farm wetlands, town of Wheatland. Noble, yes. Decker, yes. Galitsky, excused. Redsloff, excused. Gable, yes.
Supervisor Noble.
I move ordinance number 5.
Ordinance number 5 has been moved by Supervisor Noble, seconded by Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Noble.
This property is located on the west side of County Highway KD, approximately 0.4 of a mile south of 31st Street, also called Karcher Road. The comprehensive plan amendment will allow a revision of map 65 of the comprehensive plan from suburban density residential PEC and non-farmed wetlands to general agricultural and open land PEC and non-farm wetlands. The town of Wheatland recommended approval of the request, and so did the committee.
Thank you. Seeing no light, simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Ordinance 6 from Planning Development Extension Education Committee regarding Gabriel Mickle and Rachel A. Mickle requesting a rezoning from R2 Suburban Single Family Residential District, C2 Upland Resource Conservancy District, and C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District to A2 General Agricultural District, C2 Upland Resource Conservancy District, and C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District. Noble, yes. Decker, yes. Galitsky, excused. Redsloff, excused. Gable, yes.
Supervisor Noble.
I move ordinance number 6.
Ordinance number 6 been moved by Supervisor Noble, seconded by Supervisor Gable. Supervisor Noble.
This property is the same property that was referenced in ordinance number 5. It's basically the rezoning, which would allow the creation of a 10-acre parcel so that the two people that own this property can build something on it. So the town of Wheatland and the board, the committee recommended approval of the request.
Thank you. Seeing no lights, simple majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. County Clerk.
Ordinance 7 from the Planning Development Extension Education Committee regarding Don M. Polinsky requesting a rezoning from R4 Urban Single Family Residential District and PR1 Park Recreation District to R4 Urban Single Family Residential District and C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District, Town of Salem. Noble, yes. Decker, yes. Skalitsky, excused. Retzloff, excused. Gable, yes.
Supervisor Noble.
I move ordinance number 8.
How about number 7?
Oh, I'm sorry, number 7.
Ordinance number 7's been moved by Supervisor Noble, seconded by Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Noble.
Yes, this property is located on the east side of 266th Avenue, approximately 250 feet south of 268th Avenue. The rezoning is considered a map amendment to reflect actual field conditions. The town of Salem recommended approval of the request.
Seeing no lights, simple majority vote. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. County Clerk.
Ordinance 8 from the Planning Development Extension Education Committee regarding Town of Salem Park owner, Kenosha County Planning Development Extension Education Committee sponsor, requesting a rezoning from PR1 Park Recreation District to PR Park Recreation District and C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District, Town of Salem. Noble, yes. Decker, yes. Skalitsky, excused. Retzloff, excused. Gable, yes.
Supervisor Noble.
I move ordinance number 8.
Ordinance number 8's been moved by Supervisor Noble, seconded by Supervisor Gable. Supervisor Noble.
This property is a Town of Salem Park, and the property is located on the east side of 266th Avenue, approximately 175 feet south of 268th Avenue. And the rezoning is considered a map amendment to reflect actual field conditions. The Town of Salem recommended approval of the request.
Thank you. Seeing no lights, simple majority. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? County Clerk.
Resolution 8 from Judiciary and Law Enforcement and Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to reappoint Carl Holborn to the Kenosha County Civil Service Commission. Esposito, yes. Anita Johnson, excused. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Blau, yes. Poole, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Gens, yes. Brunig, yes. Dodge, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution 8.
Resolution 8 has been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Esposito.
This is also obviously a reappointment of Carl Holborn to serve on the Kenosha County Civil Service Commission. He will proceed himself. He will serve immediately. It will last until the 31st day of December 2019. He will serve without pay, but will receive per diem. Both committees approved it unanimously. I ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a simple majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. County Clerk.
Resolution 9 from Judiciary and Law Enforcement and Finance Administration Committee, Resolution FY 2015 Law Enforcement Justice Assistance Grant. Esposito, yes. Anita Johnson, excused. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Blau, yes. Poole, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Brunig, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Dodge, yes. Gens, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. I move Resolution 9.
Resolution 9 has been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Supervisor Ron Frederick. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. This is the 2015 Law Enforcement Justice Assistant Grant, also known as JAG. It is Kenosha County Sheriff's Department through a memorandum of understanding on agreement upon a 60-40 split of the amount awarded to the city of Kenosha, totaling $28,998. These funds are going to be used to purchase CED, which are conductive energy devices, also known as tasers. Both committees approved this unanimously, and I'd ask for your support.
Thank you. This is a budget modification. We're going to have a roll call on this. Vote yes if you're in favor, no if you're against, please.
Resolution 10 from Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to reappoint Kimberly Brunig to the Kenosha County Housing Authority. Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Brunig, yes. Gens, yes. Dodge, yes.
Supervisor Rose.
I move the resolution before you.
Resolution 10 has been moved by Supervisor Rose, seconded by Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Rose.
This is the appointment of Vice Chair Bruning to the Housing Authority, and we urge your endorsement.
Thank you. Seeing no lights, simple majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, passes unanimously.
From Human Service Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Gail Gens to the Kenosha County Board of Administrative Appeals. Hallman, yes. Gable, yes. Anita Johnson, yes. Decker, yes. Arrington, yes. Blau, yes. Retzloff, yes.
Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move resolutions 11 and 12 upon being read.
Seeing nobody has any discrepancy with that, we'll move those two together and we'll second them with Supervisor Gable as they're read into the record. Go ahead.
Resolution 12 from Human Service Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Rita Kadamian to the Kenosha County Board of Health. Hallman, yes. Gable, yes. Anita Johnson, yes. Decker, yes. Arrington, yes. Blau, yes. Retzloff, yes.
Simple majority vote for 11, resolution 11 and 12. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, both pass unanimously. County Clerk.
Resolution 13 from Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee regarding activity control license for County Thunder East LLC. Esposito, yes. Anita Johnson, excused. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Blau, yes. Poole, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution 13.
Resolution 13 has been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Supervisor Boyd Frederick. Supervisor Esposito.
Obviously, this is once again before us. It's an annual thing. It's the Country Thunder Activity Control License. They're getting a little bit better on timing. They're still a little bit behind, but I urge your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no lights, simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, passes unanimously. County Clerk.
Resolution 14 from Finance and Administration and Judiciary and Law Committee, resolution to approve changes in the 2015 Kenosha County budget to effect the changes necessary for the sheriff to provide law enforcement services to the village of Silver Lake. Esposito, yes. Anita Johnson, excused. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Blau, yes. Poole, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Brunig, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Dodge, yes. Gens, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. I move Resolution 14.
Resolution 14 has been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Vice Chair Bruning. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution, obviously, for the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department to take over the operations in Silver Lake, the village of Silver Lake. Kenosha County Board of Supervisors. We're here committing to 4 full-time and part-time employees of the Silver Lake Police Department that will be coming on as deputies. I want to commend the sheriff and their administration for the work they've done on this. That's going to give the people in Silver Lake actually better law enforcement coverage. And the sheriff is here if any supervisors have any questions in regards to this. But it was approved by both committees, and I ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Ritzloff, do you have a question on this? Yes, I do. Who would you like to talk to?
Sheriff, if the sheriff wouldn't mind.
He's here.
I know. If you wouldn't mind, I am for this. I just would like him just briefly explain this, and because this will be effective, we will be doing this in summers soon, so it may behoove all of us just to get, and I don't want to, he doesn't spend a long time on it, just give us what is expected, what they do, and kind of how this works. So I know it's an important thing. I am 100% for it, but maybe just a quick once-over.
Sheriff, you have the floor, sir.
Real quickly, the Silver Lake Police Department 2 years ago in the village of Silver Lake cost the village over $500,000. This contract with them is going to reduce their cost to about $275,000 for next year as a full year. If you expanded it this year, that's what it would cost. So what we are doing, if this passes tonight, is tomorrow morning at 10:45, we actually will take over patrolling the village of Silver Lake. With Silver Lake, they had a police department. It will be disbanded as of tonight, and tomorrow morning we will take over. This village of Summers, that won't happen because they don't have a standing police department. The officers, what the state statute says, is we have to make every reasonable effort to take on the officers of Silver Lake. We did civil service interviews. 4 of the 5 have passed. It's my understanding that the 5th has appealed the civil service, so they will be reconsidering that one candidate June 30th, I believe. We will be utilizing the head of their police commission as the liaison from their committee to us, and everything will be channeled through them to Captain Weicker, who basically will be our liaison, with a lieutenant and a sergeant that will be responding to their needs as well. We already had a meet and greet out in the village today. The 4 primary deputies that will be assigned out there excuse me, met a lot of the public already, and the village itself, most of them seem to be extremely excited that we're coming on board. The 4 officers are coming to join us, start tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. They're also very excited to join our department, and some of them have been described as diamonds in the rough. With a small department like Silver Lake, they do not have FTO programs or field training programs. So these officers, even though they may have years on their Silver Lake department, they basically went out of the academy and went right to the road. They have not worked with a senior officer really ever. And the ones who did ride with somebody else rode with somebody that never went through an FTO program. So these are officers that are eager to learn. I don't want to say we always do things right, but they're eager to learn how a large department handles the business of being a police department or a sheriff's department. Is that good enough?
Does that answer your, thank you, Sheriff. Move on to Supervisor Ron Frederick. You have the floor.
While the sheriff is up there, if I could ask him a question. You said there are 5 and 4 have passed the civil service exam. Are the 4 that are going to be working out there, will they be working with your deputies temporarily, or 2 in a car or something?
They're going to be going through our FTO program just like any new deputy that starts out. They have to go through the FTO program, and they have got a 1-year probation like every other brand new employee does. They have to make the program. They have to be responding to the training. If they do not, they will be let go.
Are we hiring more than we need?
No, we need 8 deputies at this moment.
You're short now.
We're
then.
short deputies right now.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Seeing no other lights, thank you, Sheriff. This is a budget modification. Roll call will be requested. Yes if you're in favor, no if you're opposed. Actually, 21 to nothing.
22.
22 to nothing, yep, you're right. My math is a little bit off. Go ahead.
Resolution 15 from Judiciary and Law Enforcement and Finance Administration Committee's Resolution Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Forces Strategic Initiative Funding for Overtime. Judiciary and Law Esposito, yes. Anita Johnson, excused. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Blau, yes. Poole, yes. Finance, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Brunig, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Dodge, yes. Gens, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. I move Resolution 15.
Resolution 15 has been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Supervisor Colmeyer. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is exactly what it states. The Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Forces Agency has partnered with the Sheriff's Department, Drug Unit KDOG, for investigative assistance. They will be reimbursed for overtime costs incurred up to $25,000 while assisting in these OCD, FTF investigations. Was approved by both committees, and I urge your support. Thank you.
Okay, we've got one light here. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the sheriff.
Through the chair to the sheriff. Sorry, Sheriff. Got to get a chair up there for you.
So this may be my own ignorance. Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't, in theory, any drug enforcement considered organized crime? Or at least treated as such? From a law enforcement perspective?
Is it considered organized crime? Well, all drug dealers, I wouldn't necessarily are part of a big network, but usually I guess we would consider it kind of organized crime. We look at it as the grassroots dealer, the ones that we see most often, and we work to apprehend, and then we work through that network to move up the chain, up the food chain, until we stop where our leads run out. So I guess to some degree it would be considered organized crime, but not all of the drug dealers that we have would be sophisticated enough that I would put them in an organized crime syndicate type of thing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you again, Sheriff. Okay, it's a budget modification for Resolution 15. Vote yes if you're in favor, no if you're against. Roll call, please.
Resolution 16 from the Planning Development Extension Education Committee regarding proposed comprehensive plan amendment, Gabriel Mikkel and Rachel A. Mikkel, owner, to the adopted land use plan map for Kenosha County 2035, map 54 of the comprehensive plan, from suburban density residential PEC and non-farmed wetlands to general agricultural and open land PEC and non-farmed wetlands, town of Wheatland. Noble, yes. Decker, yes. Skalitsky, excused. Retzloff, excused. Gable, yes.
Supervisor Noble.
I move resolution number 16.
Resolution number 16 has been moved by Supervisor Noble, seconded by Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Noble.
This property is located on the west side of County Highway KD, approximately 0.4 of a mile south of 31st Street. The state requires a resolution from the Planning and Development and Extension and Education Committee and an ordinance from the full county board to amend the comprehensive plan. This resolution would allow an amendment to the Kenosha County Comprehensive Plan for a change from suburban density residential and non-farmland wetlands to general agriculture and open land and non-farmland wetlands. The town of Wheatland recommended approval of this request.
Seeing no lights, simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. County Clerk.
Communications from Andy M. Bueller regarding future items scheduled before the Planning Development Extension Education Committee.
Receive and file.
Summons and complaint. Number 5, Gregory and Cynthia Smith, personal injury.
Refer to Corporation Council.
Approval of the June 2nd, 2015 minutes by Supervisor Skalitsky.
Supervisor Skalitsky. Has been moved by Supervisor Skalitsky to approve the minutes as presented. Is there a second? Seconded by Supervisor Decker. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Move to adjourn. Been moved to adjourn by Supervisor Rick Dodge, has been seconded by Supervisor Gable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good evening.